We're going to have to talk about this. Big 12, it's a mess. Do we have more clarity or less clarity than our show last week? I don't know. The Texas-Oklahoma move is officially official. They've been voted in. It's happening.
Yeah.
When their contract's up, they're out. The whole thing's a mess. The Big 12 has released a statement to ESPN talking about how they meddled. It's all ESPN's doing. Apparently, ESPN, who's owned by Disney, has some stake in the SEC. And this is all them. So the Big 12 has kind of put out a letter saying, whoa, they've meddled in this. They've crossed the line. They're not supposed to do this. They've been talking to teams. The whole thing's a mess, Harry.
Yeah. It's all a mess. I don't know, big issue. The Big 12 will cease to exist eventually.
It will, and they're trying. I mean, there might be a legal battle. I think the Big 12 will lose, but it doesn't look like this is going to be like a quiet exit. There's going to be some stuff that goes down.
Well, they've said they're going to make it as difficult as possible to get Texas and Oklahoma out, which would be the latest would be 2025 when the media rights are out.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Texas and Oklahoma are going to try to get out earlier. I think the soonest that would happen would be 2022, but there's going to be a bunch of legal hurdles, and we'll see. I mean, and who knows?
The other thing to think about is now that they're even if they're out by 2025, these other teams have got to start making moves. So if you're losing other teams, other conferences, it's worse for the Big 12, and that's going to hurt your fight, and it might not last as long.
I heard some of these. One group of 5 conference was trying to take the rest. I think it was the AAC was trying to take the rest of the Big 12 teams.
Yeah,
create like a super conference without it.
I mean, we're going to the 4 super conferences. We might as well get it over with.
Anybody that's left in the Big 12, as soon as they get an offer from a big conference, they're going to leave.
The offers are going to be out there now with this going on.
If they get an ACC bid, Iowa State and Iowa State and one of the Kansas teams.
Yeah.
If they get Big 10 offers, they'll leave. Pac-12 to anybody will leave. You have to. It's a sinking ship. You'd be crazy to stay.
Yeah.
I mean, your path will be easier for the next couple years, but then you're going to be, SOL.
Well, that's the thing. Even if the Big 12 somehow survives and decides to realign or create it or readjust the conference, as the team's there now, you can't wait on that. You have to do something because you don't know.
It won't be good. The Big East did that.
Yeah.
The Big East, when Virginia Tech and Miami and Pitt left, they picked up some teams. They picked up Louisville and Cincinnati. And what happened? West Virginia left. These people are going to leave the Big 12. Oklahoma State for sure. I guarantee they're going to leave when they get a chance. Everybody knows. Baylor and TCU, they're going to leave when they get a chance.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Especially Baylor. Baylor's, I mean, they're kind of an off year in football, but a year ago they were one of the better teams in the conference. They have a great basketball program. They
just won the national championship in basketball.
They're out. There's no way Baylor's sitting in the Big 12 now.
Yeah, I mean, it's a sinking ship. Anybody gets an offer, they're gone. No one's gonna be loyal anymore.
Which, on the West Virginia front, director of athletics at WVU, Shane Lyons, released a statement. Now, he didn't say it in the statement, but this statement to me was a thinly veiled resume to the ACC. In his statement, he talked about what's going on. He talked about how West Virginia has positioned themselves to be one of the power schools, how they've increased their athletic facilities, their academic programs, which to me is basically he was addressing all the knocks against them the last time they left and didn't get into the ACC. So he was going down the list and checking the boxes. And then he threw a little backhanded comment towards Texas and Oklahoma at the end of the letter. But
there's talks going on for sure. I mean, we just signed another recruit. And I gotta believe that these coaches know some stuff. At least it might not be for sure, but they feel like there's a good chance they're getting in.
Speaking of that, I don't know if you've heard this, but our new 4-star quarterback recruit, Nico Marchiol, who we've talked about a lot and is the talk of the town in West Virginia, he went on a podcast this previous week. And I haven't listened to the whole podcast. I started it, but I didn't hear this part. So I've only saw people talking about it. But at some point in the podcast, he kind of let it slip that he may know something about West Virginia already moving on or having something in place. So if he knows that, the coaches know.
My guess would be is there's talks going on. It's something that takes a long time.
Mm-hmm.
They're reviewing, and probably more likely than not, they feel like it's going to happen.
Well, with Nico Marchio, again, he's not even at West Virginia yet. He's a recruit. He's a quarterback, and apparently he knows something. And obviously, like you said, we had another 4-star recruit this week. It seems like if something's not in writing yet, it's the wheels are in motion and it's getting close.
Oh, I'm sure as word got out about Texas and Oklahoma, and they immediately went to the ACC. We've been through this once. They know, you got to get going.
And I think we have a better athletic director this time. I think we're much better positioned for this move than we were back when the Big East collapsed. So a lot of people been shitting on West Virginia. A lot of people in the comments, which is fine. Say what you want to say, but we're better positioned than we were before. And I think the ACC is scared.
From what I've seen a lot of the comments and stuff from a lot of ACC fans. I feel like out of the teams that are out there, I think they want West Virginia to come in.
Most of them do. I've seen a few, especially Clemson fans that don't. Maybe some bowl hangover there.
I've seen a lot of Clemson fans that do too.
Have you? Well, it might be 50-50. I've seen some that don't care, some that have been for it. I've seen a few that are adamantly against it for some reason.
The thing is, with the exception of Notre Dame, I mean, what other school? There's no school big enough to be worth it.
Yeah.
So why not get a team that, has history with a lot of the teams that are in there and that geographically fits with your conference?
Yeah. And that's what, I mean, a lot of people are pointing out, okay, you're not up to this standard. The market, you've talked about it. The market's obviously small. It's a smaller market than some of these teams. Yeah. But from a simply sports and athletic standpoint, from football and basketball, we're positioned better than a lot of these teams.
Yeah.
And this is one of the biggest recruiting. This is turning out to be one of the biggest recruiting classes next year in West Virginia's history.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of pressure on these other conferences to make moves.
Yeah.
Because I think the ACC, what I read was their rights go to like 2032 or 2031, something like that. They have the longest remaining time on their rights.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be a conference that just sits there and does nothing while the Pac-12 might grow. The SEC is already at 16 teams. The Big 10 might make some teams. Here, the ACC, the word is they're going to try to get Notre Dame, hopefully West Virginia, have their 16 teams.
Yeah. So if West Virginia goes, 2025, again, when the rights end, I don't think it lasts that long. I think by 22-23, we see 4 super conferences. That's what it's going to. And that's the playoff format they've been pushing for the past few years. They want to expand it. It seems like that's the way it's going.
Yeah, they want to expand. I mean, that's why these teams are willing to go to these conferences, because you're going to be able to take a couple more losses and still get in the top 12.
Which is exciting, especially for West Virginia, who's always right on the door. So
yeah, I wanted an 8-team playoff. I didn't like bigger than 8. Being that
it's more exciting that way. I mean, as fun as bowl games are, college playoffs have always kind of lacked. I mean, in basketball, you got March Madness, which is always super exciting. It would be much more exciting to see that in football.
12 seems like a lot, because I still want the regular season games to have value. And the more teams you put in the playoff, the less value you have to those games, especially when you come at the end of the season. If a team takes a loss, they're still in the playoffs. Whereas there's 8 teams, there's less of a chance.
Yeah. That would be a good format, I think. They should do that.
4 conference champions and 4 at large, but 12 is the word. 12 is what it's going to be. So these teams will go in there. You'll probably have a 3-loss team from the SEC getting in there.
Good for us. We'll see.